Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the offices of Hold My Nuggets Incorporated. We are once again in the West Wing, in Hold My Nuggets Studios. I am the founder and owner of this magnificent, pulchritudinous establishment. The diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual. The Chiseled Adonis. And what have we come here to discuss? Well, 2 years ago, if you remember, you turn and jog a little bit of that memory. You can recall when we covered what the hell is a catch in the NFL. Very successful series, 3-part series I might add. You might want to go and watch those. But if you have not, you are tuned into a brand new series of what is pass interference in the NFL. Offensive PI, defensive PI, all kinds of PI, magnum PI, it doesn't matter which one it is. We're trying to figure out exactly what is pass interference. Well, what is the origin of this, quest to figure out what pass interference is? Well, it started in the NFC Championship between the New Orleans Saints hosting the Los Angeles Rams. And what happened? Possible game-winning drive for the Saints, and then this happened.
Quick snap. Breeze. Pass is incomplete. No flag. Talk to each other. Crowd's going crazy as there's no flag right on the Saints sideline.
An egregious no call that cost New Orleans an opportunity to win in regulation. Yes, they went to overtime, and then Drew Brees' Jesus threw an interception, but we ain't talking about that right now. What we're talking about is what should be just in the NFL. So what transpired after the fallout of that loss of the New Orleans Saints? Everybody upset about what transpired. There was no flag! Why did anybody throw a flag? You guys are haters, man! Why don't you guys like the Saints? I'm gonna go and cry myself to sleep while eating a beignet! Oh, that's some gator meat! It's only $3.95! But after all of the crawling out, all of the crying out, all of the disdain around the league and fans everywhere about what transpires with the NFL, we had the senior, or I believe it was the chairman of the NFL's competition committee, Rich McKay, came out and had this to say, and I believe it was in April of this very year, 2019.
Instant replay has been a topic that I think I've been discussing with all of you for a long, long time, and we probably will for a long time. It is, for us, a tool that has served us very well, and this year was probably about as good for us from an efficiency standpoint as we've ever had. And the reason that we made the proposals for the DPI and OPI was that we had data that said these are the most impactful plays, and that's what replay was designed for. What the rule does is it puts OPI and DPI into our replay system with no change. So the system is exactly the same, but OPI and DPI are now reviewable.
With that said, for the first time in the history of the National Football League, offensive and defensive pass interference would be reviewable with a coach's challenge or within the final 2 minutes. Now, what is pass interference according to the NFL rulebook? This is categorized as defensive pass interference.
Pass interference is any act by a player more than 1 yard beyond the line of scrimmage that significantly hinders an eligible player's opportunity to catch the ball. Pass interference can only occur when a forward pass is thrown from behind the line of scrimmage, regardless of whether the pass is legal or illegal, or whether it crosses the line. Defensive pass interference rules apply from the time the ball is thrown until the ball is touched. The following actions will result in a foul for defensive pass interference. Contact by a player who is not playing the ball that restricts the opponent's opportunity to make the catch. Playing through the back of an opponent in an attempt to make a play on the ball. Grabbing an opponent's arm in a way that restricts his opportunity to catch a pass. Extending an arm across the body of an opponent, restricting his ability to catch the pass. This is commonly referred to as an arm bar. Cutting off the path of an opponent by making contact with him without playing the ball. And hooking and turning an opponent in an attempt to get the football before it arrives.
Makes sense, doesn't it? This is categorized as offensive pass interference.
Offensive pass interference rules apply from the time the ball is snapped until the ball is touched. The following actions will result in a foul for offensive pass interference. Shoving or pushing off an opponent to create separation in an attempt to catch a pass. Blocking more than 1 yard downfield before the ball is touched. With the ball in the air, blocking a defender more than 1 yard beyond the line in the vicinity of the pass. This is commonly referred to as a pick.
Now this all sounds well and good, but who is the individual who would be reviewing these calls? I'm happy you asked. It is this gentleman, Mr. Al Riveron, right here.
Clear and obvious. That's the standard for replay. This is part of the replay rule. That's the standard. Clear and obvious, visual evidence significantly hinders. It's not what we think, it's not what our gut tells us. It's what we can see clear and obvious. But again, that has nothing to do with the way you've been officiating. That has not changed at all.
There you have it directly from the horse's mouth. Clear and obvious, visual evidence significantly hinders. A very simple slogan to follow. One that you would assume is so clear that the referees cannot possibly get wrong. More importantly, you yourself, Mr. Al Riveron, because you're the person who's doing the reviewing in New York. You would assume he'd follow his own doctrine. However, that's not the case. Had that been the case, we would have never had to take a step into Hold My Nuggets Incorporated, walk into the West Wing, walk into Hold My Nuggets Studios, and try to analyze what the hell is a pass interference call in the NFL. Because every single one of you individuals wearing zebra prints on Sunday, Monday, Thursday have been doing a piss poor job at officiating week after week, month after month, game after game, play after play. Why is that? Through 3 weeks in the preseason, the first 49 games, there were 48 different situations in which there was a call of pass interference or a no call where there should have been pass interference, or at least a team thought there should have been a flag on that play. These were reviewable. Some challenged, some ended up going to the booth because they were inside of 2 minutes, or it was a turnover or a touchdown. And what transpired? Of these 48 instances, only 8 were overturned. Pardon me, 6 were overturned. That is less than 16% of these that go to review that result in being overturned. These were one of the worst. I should say this because I'm only going to show you one in the preseason. One of the worst possible, or I should say, offensive pass interference calls I have ever seen in my life.
Going deep, and a flag is thrown.
Stays focused on it.
Pass interference. Offense number 13. 10-yard penalty. Replay, second down.
How is that pass interference when he's coming back to try and make a play on the ball?
Well, Jay Gruden has challenged for good reason.
Not only was this called offensive pass interference instead of being called defensive pass interference, this was challenged by Jay Gruden, who was the coach at the Washington Redskins at the time. Since now, you know, he's too busy because he's too busy being unemployed, all right? He's somewhere sitting wondering why he can't be a Gruden grinder like his brother. But we ain't talking about that right now. But they reviewed this play and it upheld. This upheld. But you want us to take you seriously. Fast forward to the regular season, and this is all we saw all season. Referees participating in the Helen Keller, participating in the Stevie Wonder Challenge, because since week 3 of the regular season, coaches' challenges on pass interference calls are 2 for 41. That is 4.9%. If I told you to go skydiving, and the instructor told you, well, only 4.9% of individuals actually make it to the ground successfully. Everybody else, you know, they land on the ground, but you know, they're a little bit too busy. Too busy being dead. Why? Because their parachutes do not work. Would we take that entity that is that skydiving location seriously? You wouldn't. You would be a fool to go through with it. But in the case of the NFL, we're supposed to still go and trust your judgment. You expect coaches to take you seriously and actually throw this challenge, expecting you to actually analyze what is happening to make an overturned call, but only 4.9% have seen a change? Ridiculous. Since week 4, I believe it's 31 for 32, all of them being upheld. coaches are now afraid to throw the challenge flag. Let's take a look at some of the plays throughout the season where there was calls for pass interference, defensive or offensive, and all of these were upheld.
With 51 seconds left in the game, we stopped the game to take a look at a possible pass interference. It was determined that both the offensive player and defensive player were contacting each other as they were going down the field. Neither player significantly hindered the other's opportunity to make a play on the ball. Therefore, the ruling on the field stood.
No way. We got you. Not a chance.
That's a load of malarkey. There is no possible way Richard Sherman is not committing pass interference. He's breaking Rule 3, 4, and 5.
An opponent's arm in an arm bar, cutting off the path of an opponent by making contact with him without playing the ball.
All three on display on this play. He's holding his arm, he's doing an arm bar to the left arm, and he's not even playing the ball. But this was not flagged.
Man, this some old bullshit.
Adonis, you gotta understand the rules and the regulations are different when you're throwing flags on the field versus when you're reviewing the penalty. Is that right? Well, I think different. Not forget the slogan, clear and obvious, visual evidence significantly hinders. Well, Al Riveron, why don't we hear it from the horse's mouth in one of the calls that were overturned thus far this season?
In Indianapolis, the initial ruling on the field was that of no pass interference. After review, it is clear and obvious through visual evidence that number 37 significantly hindered the receivers while the ball was in the air. Therefore, the ruling on the field was changed to defensive pass interference.
We can all agree this is indeed pass interference, correct, against T.Y. Hilton. So why was that not the same case with these calls? 4th and long, Golden Shower Tate being molested on his way up to get the football. No flag on the field, and this went to review, and it was not deemed pass interference. Now, I know what you're thinking. Game was already out of reach. They were down by 3 touchdowns. Perhaps that's why they didn't throw the flag. Really now? First quarter, 0-0 is the score. Marlon Humphrey holding on to the hips of DeAndre Hopkins, caressing this man's nipples. Not a single flag thrown on the field. Bill O'Brien would challenge the call defensive pass interference. The referees would review and say the call would be upheld. There is no flag on the field. Do we call this not pass interference? Dallas taking on Green Bay. There's no issue with contacting the receiver within 5 yards, but Michael Gallup continued to be touched well after he passed 5 yards. This was an interception. It immediately went to a replay because all turnovers are reviewed. This upheld as an interception, and there was no flag for defensive pass interference. Indianapolis traveling to take on Pittsburgh. This was considered defensive pass interference. However, in Green Bay hosting the Philadelphia Eagles, this was not considered pass interference, despite the fact there was no head looking back towards the ball, despite the fact there was illegal hands to the face. There was no flag, and this was challenged by Green Bay, only to see the call be upheld as no foul. Now, one would make the argument in the NFL there are bang-bang plays and there are judgment calls. You would be correct. However, with the implementing of now being able to review, hence throwing the challenge flag, and also being inside 2 minutes with the referees being told, go to the booth, that now nullifies that argument. And since there is replay, we must never forget the slogan, clear and obvious, visual evidence, and also significantly hinders. These 3 things must be taken into account whenever we see calls that are reviewed. However, we've seen countless times in which they've gone and reviewed plays and since made ridiculous ASA 7, ASA 8, ASA 9 calls. For example, New England taking on the Eagles. On 3rd and 10, Tom Brady went deep for Julian Edelman. He attempted to make the reception. Maddox tried to make the interception. This was deemed a no call. There was no flags on the play. However, San Francisco taking on Arizona, this was called defensive pass interference on the linebacker, not offensive pass interference on Kyle Juszczyk. Please make this make sense. This is the exact same scenario, but the defender was flagged for pass interference. Detroit taking on Kansas City. There was no flag here for defensive pass interference. No illegal hands to the face. Nothing whatsoever. Charles Woodson, Tony Dungy, and countless other NFL legends all expressed their displeasure with this pass interference officiating. It has been absolutely atrocious throughout the course of the entire season. But the buck does not stop there. Teams have been getting screwed week in and week out. There have been even more egregious no calls on the season. Take a look at these plays. Steelers taking on the Dolphins. This was called offensive pass interference. It was inside 2 minutes. They did not need a coach's challenge. They went to the review and the call was upheld. Cardinals taking on the 49ers. This was called defensive pass interference. Steelers and Bengals. This was called offensive pass interference with a slight touch. But the Saints taking on the Bucks, this was not called at all. No offensive pass interference on Michael Thomas. As you can see, there is zero consistency in the NFL making the appropriate call. 1 week, something will stand. The next week, the exact same thing that just stood will not stand. And when you take a look at offensive pass interference, let's examine the pick play and the inconsistencies that the NFL has had with this play. I'll only use 2 examples just to keep it short.
T.Y. Hilton going to come down and make the pick right there. If it's within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage, it's legal. Oh, boy.
Terry, weigh in on that one.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Not only is it not more than a yard, he just sits there and the defender contacts him first.
But Adonis, he went 2 yards. Travis Kelce went 4, picked the man, and there was 0 flag on the play. Bill O'Brien would challenge. They would go to the review, and it would be upheld. There would be no flag for offensive PI.
Oh my God!
And last but not least, one particular scenario in which nobody tends to think about flags being thrown, that being the Hail Mary. Now, I understand what you're saying. A lot of people get cluttered. You can throw a flag anytime there's a Hail Mary that's happening. However, according to the NFL rulebook, since it's within the final 2 minutes, if there appears to be some sort of flag that should have been thrown, you should go to the booth to examine if there's a defensive pass interference or an offensive pass interference during a Hail Mary play. You don't believe me? Here's the facts directly from the NFL. Well, NFL, if that's the case, why is there no defensive PI for Marvin Jones being shoved on the floor? So to my estimation, it appears the NFL is their complete antithesis of what they claim to be. 1 week, what's pass interference? The next week, it's not. 1 week, this isn't pass interference. The next week, it is. It appears nobody can trust you. And if you're going to expect coaches to go out there and throw the challenge flag in the hopes that you will thoroughly investigate and give the insight that the coaches need to understand whether this is pass interference or it's not, that's stupid! You're not using your common sense. It's ridiculous. On a week-by-week basis, the NFL have these officials that willingly go out on the field and screw teams over. And thank the Lord that this officiating for the pass interference call will only last this particular season, straight from the horse's mouth. In closing, what you came here for was to find out exactly what is a pass interference call in the NFL. And it looks like I'm participating in the Lex Luger challenge. Cause damn it, I don't know!
I don't know!
Nobody knows what pass interference in the NFL is. I asked Roger Goodell, he said, I don't know. I asked Dean Blandino, he says, I don't know. I asked Al Riveron, he said, I don't know. I asked Mike Pereira, he said, I don't know. I called on Lord Zeno, he ain't know. I gathered the Dragon Balls. I called on Shenron. I gave him a wish. I said, can you please tell the world what pass interference in the NFL is? He said, this wish is not of my power. I can't do it anymore. I've done all the investigating I possibly could, and yet we cannot come to a consensus of what a pass in the NFL is. Not a pass interference, and it's ASA 7, ASA 8, ASA 9 to believe these referees to inform you what it is. They have these rules in place, they don't even follow the doggone rules. The only thing that I know is if I see referees continue to accept coaches throwing challenge flags on the floor, I'm going to bring the voodoo to their hood near them. I'm going to put on my Timberlands. I'm going to put on a white beater. I'm going to put a do-rag on my head. I'm going to put a fitted on top of it. I'm going to bring my triple play powers to their ass. I'm going to whip their doggone ass, and I'm going to go into their bathroom. I'm going to release the fecal matter out of my rectal sphincter, and I will not flush. I will let that shit marinate in your bathrooms, every single referee, until they fix this goddamn rule.
Son of a bitch.
And that's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. It's not a threat, it's a guarantee. I'm not just sure I'm HIV positive. You're hepatitis C, this local Negro. Get apoplectic, have a conniption, go over to goddamn Al Riveron's house and slap the taste out of his mouth until he fixes this goddamn pass interference rule. I have had enough, alright? And I'm not alone in having enough, because everybody here watching this video, everybody trying to figure out what the hell a pass interference call in the NFL is, we're all upset with how the goddamn league is dealing with this. Until you fix it, somebody's getting their asses whipped, because I'm telling you right now, when the Super Bowl comes around, if it comes down to a final play and you see the referees throw a flag down for pass interference, they go and review the call. You see it's not pass interference, but they continue to, hey, we're only going to have 4.9%. We're not going to overturn our call. All of a sudden the team gets put into field goal range or whatever, and the game ends on that. There will be a riot, and somebody will get their ass whipped. That is my final analysis from Hold My Nuggets Incorporated in the West Wing, live in Hold My Nuggets Studios. I have been your host, the founder and the CEO, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled, Adonis, and goddamn it, somebody better explain what the hell this goddamn pass interference call is in the NFL, or somebody's gonna get their ass whipped. To the shadow realm I go. God